Hi, I'm Rick Jackson, Chief Marketing Officer for Click. I'm sitting here today with Kevin Hanegan, Click's Chief Learning Officer, and we're going to talk about the Data Literacy Certification Program. So Kevin, great to see you.
Thanks, Rick. Likewise.
Now, we just launched the world's first certification program for data literacy. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. So with the data literacy certification, it's an online, freely available exam. But what's unique about it is it teaches and assesses both hard skills and soft skills, which is really an industry first. Currently, anyone that wants to assess anything around data literacy hits a wall where a lot of the assessments are very technical, more borderline of a data scientist. But as we know, data literacy is for everyone. Right. So people need to be able to validate those skills and work towards being data literate. So the certification allows them to validate that knowledge they have. And if they don't exceed the first time and retake the exam, it shows them areas of improvement that they could work on their data literacy journey. So with it being both hard skills and soft skills, it is unique because the questions range from understanding data, understanding aggregations, all the way up to more soft skills like being curious about the data, being aware of your bias, and even skills that are both hard and soft, like critically appraising the data to make data-informed decisions and making sure you're making them at the right level, whether it be strategic or operational. So it really is unique in the industry.
And I assume a lot of the background material that if I wanted to improve my data literacy to prepare for the certification is available through our coursework.
Absolutely. I mean, we first believe that it should all be taught in educations, university, primary schools. But as adult learners, we know there's some people that are just joining the digital transformation, and they do need to be skilled on the basics of data and some of the soft skills. So we do have on the Click Continuous Classroom freely available courses and resources available to help people with that journey.
Kevin, why don't you tell us in your words, why is data literacy so important?
Yeah, it's important because we talk a lot about the fourth industrial revolution, and the things that I think are missing from that is when you compare it to the first three, the speed and the scope are so much different. So the speed, and there's studies that say the half-life of skills today are less than 5 years. When my parents went to school, they learned something, they became an apprentice, they were associate all the way up to senior, and then they retired. They didn't have to reskill. Here, you're constantly reskilling, but the one theme throughout all of it is you're using data. In the scope, it's global. So with the third industrial revolution, with electricity, with computers, it's limited to different parts of the world. Now, whether you're an organization, you're a consumer, whether you're in the United States, whether in Europe, Africa, everyone needs to use data. It's kind of the end of corporate imperialism to some extent. You really need to make it part of your daily life, not just in work, but also in life. And so that's why it's really different, and it's a different skill set than people are used to.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, that we tend to think about data and analytics with work, but the reality is that we all owe ourselves the favor of becoming more data literate as citizens of the global economy.
Absolutely. Just look at my kids, playing Facebook online and the amount of data I'm analyzing and having cord cutting with cable TV. I mean, I'm paying more money now than I did 5 years ago in cable, and I just don't it's constantly re-educating yourself. But the primary thing through all of it is you have to understand data. You have to be able to challenge the data. So there are some people out there that will say, I get it, it's data, here's the average, here's what it means. But it's almost like in the news, when you see the fake news and the alternate news, they treat it as fact, and they're not willing to accept that it could be a different perspective. It could be misleading. And so it's those soft skills that are really important in life. When you look at the news, you need to take that with a grain of salt and really understand the context of it.
It's even the simple stuff like beware of the actual units of the axis when you see the up and to the right graph.
Absolutely.
Right?
Starting at zero and looking exactly. Anytime you're on the news, you could probably see something where there is a illiterate use of a visualization. Yeah.
Kevin, where would you go to start this certification process? Where do I go online?
I would start with the Data Literacy Project. So there you have links to a lot of the learning resources that are freely available. Those all have practical examples of how data literacy can be used and taught and important in life. There's also a community there where you can go and post questions to others and kind of apply that knowledge. And I would just say practice on your own. Go out and, when you're making a decision, think about it critically, reframe it, ask for a different perspective, and get enough at-bats working with data decisions in your own life and also in business. That's going to get you a long way there.
And are we targeting a sweet spot of the data literacy curve, or is it as important for new people coming on board or up the early part of the ramp?
It's a great question. It's important for everyone. I'm a huge advocate. You got to start early. We don't teach the scientific method in school. Scientific method you do in science class, but it teaches people to have a hypothesis, potentially with your data, and then look for data to disprove it. We've been brought up as humans to make an opinion and validate it with data. So certainly the earlier you can start in the school systems, working with curriculums that are not just STEM related, but curriculums where you're actually taught to be curious and be skeptical of data, all the way up to people who are new in the digital transformation. I teach at a couple universities, and we have tons of students now who used to be in, I'd say, the old world, like print design, and now they're going to digital design. I have a couple who used to be newspaper editors, and now they're being website editors. Same industry. They are struggling with the fact that things are moving at the web analytics. They're like, well, I looked at my reports last month on my print design, and I knew it was doing well. I'm like, well, you need to look at analytics like daily. And it's just a big change for them, and obviously they need to stay employed. They need to stay working and be effective. So new people just coming out, as well as people are looking to switch careers and evolve in the digital transformation. It really is for everyone.
And Kevin, why is it important that the academic world embrace data literacy?
Yeah, it's a really good question. A lot of times in the academics now, things have changed, but the curriculum has stayed the same, whether it be primary school, secondary school, university. One good example of that is there's a lot of teaching of the technology itself. Whether it be in computer science, it's the language. Whether it be statistics, it's R, it's MATLAB. There isn't a lot of emphasis on the human element of applying those technologies in real-world examples. So it's really important that academics and universities look at not just the technology, but also look at the human element and the education of the people and marrying the two. So why would you use this technology? To get them ready for the workforce, because the times are changing so quickly. We don't have the time to do apprenticeships, internships, co-ops, and learn on the fly. The pace of change is so dramatic, you have to hit the ground running, and that means you need more practical job-related experience in the university, even in primary schools.
And Kevin, why is this important now?
It's really important now because we're at the precipice of really large-scale society and economic changes. You look at things still happening like racial profiling. You look at global warming. You look at all of the globalization and the trends of all of our mental models changing at rapid pace. People are not keeping up with that. And there are dire consequences at an organization. Organizations can be built and they can be bankrupt within minutes if they don't follow the right data protocols. At the same time as society, hundreds of years ago, it was a fight for extinction. It's the same fight for extinction now. It's just we're not going to be eaten by dinosaurs. We're going to be overwhelmed by carbon monoxide and global warming. And the critical inflection point is coming up. And if we don't, make everyone aware of it, I think the first step is realize this is true data. It's not fact, and act on it. Then dire consequences. So now is the time.
Well, I think that's a great message, Kevin, is that it's our responsibility for all of us to become more data literate.
Absolutely.
So I want to thank you today for sharing your perspectives on that. I want to encourage everyone, go to the dataliteracyproject.org and join the movement. Thank you.